Hello everyone, I'm Jeremiah from How Games, and welcome to my first devlog of my indie game that I've been developing, Photon, a game about a particle of light that can switch between a particle and a wave of light, and you can use this wave of light to bounce off of mirrors and interact with the world in interesting ways. So I'll be posting these devlogs whenever I have a major update on this game. I just wanted to kind of share the development process with you guys and share the learning process of me learning the Godot engine and using GDScript. I'll kind of show you kind of where I'm at right now. I've been working on this game for about a year so far, from knowing absolutely nothing about coding and then slowly over time self-teaching myself how to use GDScript. And yeah, it's been a long process, but I think it's been a really fun process to kind of learn the ins and out of the GDScript language and the Godot engine itself. So I'll kind of show you what I'm working with at this point. So the main idea is it's a normal platformer. You have your character, you can run, you can jump, you can walk, you can wall jump, all the standard platformer controls, but what really shines about this game is the extended wave dash feature, in which the character will morph into a light wave, kind of playing off of the idea that light is a particle and a wave. And so you can jump, and if you're in the air, then you can use the wave dash. And the wave dash is a 1 second long dash that can't be changed direction once it's started, but it can reflect off of mirrors like so. So you can either just go in one straight line or you can use mirrors, and I think this will help with some good level design and an overall interesting experience. Like, I've seen lots of platformers before with very short dashes. Celeste, for example, has probably like a 0.5 second dash, but it's not really a long dash like this. And I think the idea of having the character morph into something that can reflect off of the environment is something that I haven't really seen before. So that's kind of the general idea of this game, and there's going to be a lot of other things that I haven't implemented yet to interact with and change the way the wave is used. Like the mirrors here are just kind of the basic element that I first came up with to interact with the wave, but then since then I've come up with a couple other ideas. For instance, this blue area is the wave only zone, so you can only be in wave form while in it, and if you aren't in wave zone you will die. And then I've also implemented a couple other types of zones like that, like a no wave zone and a wave only zone, both which will have some interesting effects. Like this green area is the wave only zone, so the wave will last infinitely long as you're in the zone. And then the no wave zone, you can't wave at all, so that will be used for some interesting level design. And then I got some enemies over here. The electrons will be the main enemy force against the photons in this game, but these are still in their very early stages. Like the respawn mechanics aren't quite there yet on these guys, but you can see that I am getting started on that. But that's essentially what I've got so far on this game. I have a couple other elements that you can interact with, but recently I've been mostly working on the still the physics of the jump, because I was having some trouble with the variable jump height. So essentially, to make a good platformer, you want to be able to let the player jump at different heights depending on how long they hold the jump. So sometimes you can jump short, or sometimes you can jump really high. It depends on how long you hold the jump. It gives the player more control, and that's kind of a difficult thing to code when you're first starting. And the problem is when you're first starting game development, the jump is one of the first things that you're going to design, And so my jump code was a year old when I didn't really know anything about coding, and it really was not good. So this is the previous version of the game as of the last couple days before I overhauled the jump system. And as you can see, the jump is really floaty and really slow. Like, I did manage to get the idea of a faster fall than a rise by increasing the gravity on the descent, and that also let me have a variable jump, which is pretty impressive that I implemented that so early on in the learning process. But there's a lot of other things that are very much wrong with this setup, and one of them is after the wave, if you're holding the jump button versus when you're not holding the jump button, the amount of inertia that you have after the wave changes drastically. So you can travel up a whole lot if you're holding the jump button because gravity is so much lower. And that I didn't really like the inconsistency there. And also with these jump pads that I'm developing, if you aren't holding jump, it does a certain height, but then if you hold jump, it goes way too high. And I couldn't really figure out how to fix that. So here's the jump function that controlled the jump and the gravity that I had developed over a year ago. And you can see here, if you're not on the floor and you're not pressing jump, the velocity will be 1.3. But then you'd have down here, if not on the floor, velocity, gravity, just normal gravity, not 1.3. And so both of these would activate at the same time, so you would get a different gravity times delta per frame, swapping from just normal gravity to 1.3, which made it kind of inconsistent. And then you have this over here, which would make the gravity 1.2 if you're still holding jump while you're falling. And it's just not a very good system. And so what I did was I went over to the Godot example projects, and there was one that somebody had made kind of explaining the entirety of the jump mechanics, and they said that you can use that code to kind of adapt for your own game. So that's what I did. So now I have this jump code right here, and they separated the jump from the gravity code, which is really smart, and they also used a lot more different variables to help determine some of the different ways that the jump is controlled. So if you look at this, we have all of these export variables right here that control how the jump is formed. So you have the gravity acceleration that kind of determines how fast the gravity can change, the gravity max, how fast you can fall, the jump force, which is the initial jump velocity, jump cut, that has to do with the how early you can let go of the jump before it cuts. And then you have a couple of these other variables that are quality of life features, such as coyote jump and jump buffers. Those are really important for a good controlling and good feeling platformer. And so I had already had these implemented in the previous code, but this system did it way better. So I think that's kind of where I am on the jump mechanics. And now I have a couple bugs that I'm working on fixing. So this here is the wave meter. So when the wave is active, the meter goes down, and when it hits the bottom, that's when your wave ends. And then it won't recharge again until you hit the ground. And then once it's fully recharged, you can use your wave again. And so you can let go of the wave early, and you'll save some of this juice, so it takes less time for it to recharge so you can use your next wave. And the problem is when you just release it mid-wave, it saves this information. But for some reason, when you hit a wall, it completely deletes all of the previous juice and starts back from scratch. And I'm not really sure why this is happening, because as far as I know, the code that controls this versus like when you hit the ceiling or a wall versus when you just let go is the same. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. So we have the wave timer start here, and that's what happens when you first start the wave. and that is what controls the meter, because the meter equals the same amount of time left on the timer. And so then in the wave update, we have if you collide with a surface, wave mode off. And so if you go back up to wave mode off, you have the wave timer stop. And so I believe that it should keep the progress bar the same. This is for letting the player know you can't use the progress bar until it's fully recharged. It makes it a little bit darker, a little bit more transparent to kind of show, hey, this isn't really, like, it's not, you can't use it right now because it's not fully charged. But then if you go back down to the wave update, if you let go of wave, also wave mode off. So I don't really understand why I'm getting a different result between these two things. So this code here determines how, like, it says that the meter equals the value of the wave timer. And that's separate from both of these logic on the wave mode off. And they both end the state, and they both have the wave reset, which determines when it will recharge and when you can use it. So my idea is that when it hits the surface, for some reason it's putting the wave timer value all the way back down to 0. So I'm going to print the wave timer value. So it should print, so we got 0 right now because the timer's not started. And it slowly goes down from 1 second all the way back down to 0. And then when it hits 0, that's when the timer, this meter, is out and you end. And when you let go, it also goes back down to 0. Then why? This is what controls when the timer recharges. So if cooldown equals true and you're not in a no wave zone, then the timer meter will move towards 100 from its current state. And then if it's full, then you have wave enabled, which allows you to wave again. Now my concern is I'm going to print this instead and see what happens when I try the same bug. So right now we have a value of 100. That's because we're full. And so let's try to do it halfway here. So it stops at 58 because that's about how much was left. It stops at 45. And then you can see it slowly goes up as it recharges. So let's try to run it out all the way. We have 0. Slowly goes back up to 100, but let's try hitting a ceiling. Instantly goes to 0. The only thing I can find is that this collision causes wave mode off and state ended. Maybe this needs to be first? Now let's try. So that still works. Weird. Not sure why that's different. I think it has something to do with the fact that this here is a loop. The 4 in would make it a loop. I'm not sure why that changes the order of this. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments. That's another thing that is going to be good about these devlogs is if I don't know something or I'm doing something very wrong, please point it out. I'd love to hear and I'd love to learn more about this language and engine. It's a learning process, so that's just kind of why I'm showing my process here, because that's a good way to learn. And boom, there we go. So I guess that'll do it for this video. Mostly just bug fixing for this time. It was more of an introduction into the game itself, but in the future I plan on making more videos of me implementing specific things, not just bug fixing. But let me know what you think about this game, and let me know. I'm thinking about making a Discord server if there's enough interest so we can discuss some of the things related to this game and related to just learning Godot in general. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.